Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're basically taking a sledgehammer to polite social theory.
That's a good way to put it.
We have this set of observations filed under On Human Nature 00110025, and it's just a remarkably blunt, almost surgical guide to human motivation. It's definitely not the manual you want for people, but I think it might be the one you need.
It is challenging stuff. It really forces you to confront the mechanisms that are operating just beneath our conscious intentions.
Totally.
I mean, we're talking about why we relentlessly seek status, how our disagreements play out even internally, and the deeply cynical architecture of our closest relationships.
Exactly. So our mission today is to give you the cheat sheet. We are diving deep into these 15 observations to pull out the truly shocking nuggets that explain why people, and that includes you, behave the way they do.
Yeah.
We promise you'll leave here armed with a new vocabulary for explaining the chaotic world around you.
And this material argues that human behavior is fundamentally driven by comparison and the pursuit of acknowledgement. So let's start right there, in the engine room of social life.
Okay, let's unpack this. The driver, according to observation 000, is comparison. It argues that comparison literally makes the world go around.
Right. It's that constant drive to be better than whoever we're measuring ourselves against. That's what creates action and progress.
But comparison on its own is... what? It's just data, right?
Exactly. And observation 000, Lizzie points that out. It says, comparison is utterly useless without judgment. You have to first judge the other person, as better, worse, or equal. That judgment is the spark, and the comparison that follows becomes the fuel.
It's the ignition switch. Okay, so once we're moving, what are we chasing? Status, recognition, respect.
All of the above. But here's where it gets really murky, according to observation 0015. It is almost impossible to distinguish between the genuine pursuit of respect and just sheer attention-seeking.
Because the behaviors are the same.
They're identical. I mean, think about it. If someone is putting in 12-hour days, self-promoting, networking relentlessly, is that person striving for the deep earned respect that comes from mastery?
Or are they just performing for validation?
Exactly. Are they just looking for attention? You can't tell from the outside.
And the material kind of suggests that maybe the person doing it can't always tell either. It forces you to look inward and ask, am I chasing validation or am I chasing value?
Precisely. And in today's world, this chase is just amplified. Observation 00024 notes that humans are basically hardwired to look for recognition.
And if they haven't gotten it recently,
they will actively go hunting for it.
The internet, of course, turned this into a global 204/7 carnival. But that same observation, it raises this amazing paradox. People want recognition, but they often do not want visibility.
Yes, that's such a key point. It's the desire for the status token, that little badge that says, I matter, without the burden and the scrutiny that comes with being truly visible.
So they want the applause, but not the spotlight.
Not the spotlight that reveals flaws, no. Visibility means you can be criticized. Recognition, in this context, just means you're affirmed.
And observation 00023, it completely changes the rules of the game for modern recognition. The metric is no longer what you're known for.
No.
It's what you're followed or unfollowed for.
Just think about that shift for a second. Old status was about permanence, right?
Yeah.
You publish a classic book, build an institution.
Something stable.
Yeah. But new status is measured by this constant adherence and rejection. It leads to what we could call network volatility.
Network volatility. I like that. Break that down for us.
It just means your status is fleeting. It's always in flux. It's not tied to inherent quality, but to the momentary whim of the crowd.
So you're only as good as your last tweet.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You are known for the action that caused the most engagement, positive or negative. Followed today for something clever, unfollowed tomorrow for a bad take. The volatility is the measure of your relevance.
That makes the pursuit of status sound absolutely exhausting.
It is.
Okay, let's shift from these external drivers to the internal landscape. The dynamics of speaking up and the mindsets we use to survive all this noise.
Right. This next bit is about the surprising habits we fall into when we're interacting with other people's thoughts.
So observation 00012 talks about basic communication. People wait for someone else to speak first. But once the conversation starts, the reaction to disagreement is profound.
It is. If they agree with what they hear, they might nod, contribute a little bit. It's passive.
But if they disagree?
They will never shut up. And often that opposition isn't even external. It's just a persistent, relentless voice inside their own head, arguing the point long after the conversation's over.
So agreement brings peace, but disagreement creates this internal, never-ending engine of criticism. It's like the ultimate backseat driver in your own mind.
And observation 0013 connects that relentless internal voice to everything else. It says you'll never get away from the way people think.
You can't escape it.
Never. Whether you hear it out loud or it's just happening in their skull, those cognitive mechanics, the biases, the judgments, the arguments, they are inescapable. You are surrounded by thinking machines.
Okay, so if that's the reality we're stuck in, how do you build some kind of durable psychological defense? This brings us to this new term, the cynicist, from observation 00022.
Right. This is defined as a realist, but with a pronounced wariness about human motives. It sounds negative, but the observation frames it as a highly functional mindset.
But wait, isn't that just pessimism? I mean, how is adopting a cynical lens actually useful beyond just managing disappointment? Doesn't that just lead to stagnation?
That's the key distinction. The observation calls cynicism the essential, the antidote to naivete.
The antidote.
Yes. Naivete assumes altruism and is constantly surprised and hurt. The cynicist, by assuming flawed motivation, forces a person to see the error of your hope and optimism about people.
Can you give us a practical example, like in a business negotiation?
Absolutely. A naive optimist enters a negotiation assuming good faith, right? Shared desire for a fair outcome. They get blindsided by self-interest every time.
Okay.
The cynicist, though, approaches the same table assuming the other party is only interested in their own gain. That wariness forces them to become an expert on human motive. They anticipate the low blow, look for the hidden agenda.
And they build contracts based on distrust.
Which, paradoxically, often leads to a more secure outcome. It's self-preservation through strategic expectation management.
So the cynicist isn't defined by their emotions, but by their methodology. They use wariness as an analytical tool.
Exactly. Now, if we understand that motivation is inherently self-interested, what happens when that self-interest finally achieves its goal? Power and control.
Observation 001 points to a dark side effect here.
A side effect we rarely talk about.
The unexpected negative effects of gaining power and control over something or someone are shame and guilt.
We assume control brings satisfaction, but so often the act of exercising that dominance requires some kind of moral compromise.
Crossing a line you thought you'd never cross.
Right. That compromise, that assertion of your will over another, is what generates the shame and guilt. It's the moral price tag of victory.
Wow. So acquiring control on the outside leads directly to this internal moral conflict. If that's the cost of trying to control the world, then how do you find peace internally?
Well, perhaps by letting go of that need for control, by embracing the uncontrollable parts of yourself. Observation 0014 argues that a good part of mental health is just feeling comfortable with your own eccentricity.
Accepting the strange parts, the unique glitches, instead of trying to shove them into some neat little box society gives you.
It's a foundational move toward internal equilibrium. It's a sharp contrast to the guilt that comes from asserting external dominance.
But not everyone gets there through acceptance. Some people seek that feeling of forward motion by measuring themselves against other people's failures.
And that brings us to observation 00021, which details parasitic ways of living, relying on the failure of others to put wind in your sails.
That sounds brutal.
It is, and it's just the illusion of progress. Think of the junior manager who is secretly hoping their boss messes up, or the writer who just critiques others mercilessly to feel superior.
They seem like they're gaining rank because someone else is losing it.
So they're gaining status without gaining any skill. Exactly.
What?
And the observation is crystal clear about the cost. It's a convenient way to seem like you're moving forward, but only a part of you is moving. All the other parts are standing still.
Because you aren't building your own internal engine.
You're just relying on gravitational pull. When the person you are feeding off of is gone, you stall.
That's a devastating diagnosis for that kind of career climber. You realize the energy for your motion was borrowed, not earned.
And this idea of relative rank and status brings us perfectly to the final section, the architecture of relationships.
Because even our closest bonds are defined by these forces.
Unfortunately, yes.
Let's talk friendship, because observation 0020 is maybe the most cynical idea in this entire set. It suggests friendships might primarily be a form of attaining and maintaining rank and status.
Mutually sustaining equal rank.
That just strips all the sentimentality away.
It does. Friendship, under this framework, is a pact of equals. You choose friends who are roughly on your social or financial or intellectual level because it stabilizes your own status. They affirm your position by mirroring it.
The implication of that is huge. If the bond is transactional and based on parity, what happens when that parity is broken?
Well, the observation is blunt. When the rank changes, the friendships also change.
So if one friend suddenly becomes massively successful,
A huge promotion, wins the lottery, gets famous, the friendship often fractures. And it's not because they stop caring. It's because the foundational agreement of equal rank has been destabilized. The transactional nature is exposed.
wow. So the greatest risk to a friendship isn't a fight, but a fundamental change in circumstance.
It seems so. And even within that fragile equality, observation 001 suggests we don't even know each other fully.
We don't.
Every friend you've had only knows the part of you they want to know. We are a collection of these curated, compartmentalized versions of ourselves, tailored to fit what that specific relationship needs to function.
Your work friend's self, your childhood friend's self.
And they rarely overlap.
Which brings us to perhaps the ultimate act of compartmentalization and commitment, marriage.
Right. Observation 00019 uses a powerful, slightly chilling metaphor. It describes marriage as a box for the soul.
It frames the whole commitment as confinement, trading endless possibility for defined structure.
And the necessary condition for it to even work. You have to come to terms with the fact that your soul might get locked in it.
It's an acceptance of a necessary permanent restriction in exchange for the benefits of that bond.
It's the highest expression of the cynicist's bargain. You acknowledge the cost right up front.
That's a heavy note. But it leads us perfectly to observation 0025, which gives us the critical distinction for how we evaluate any person. It breaks it down into two ways of knowing someone.
Two ways, yes.
The first is knowing them by what they did or didn't do, judging their choices moment by moment. This assumes free will exists.
Right, continuous conscious choice. But the second way, the deeper, more deterministic way, is knowing them by what they've always or never done.
And this relates to the black box of consciousness.
The black box.
That's a heavy concept. Can you simplify what that metaphor tells us about people?
The black box is like the core programming. It's the genetics, the early conditioning, the deep-seated fears, all the stuff that dictates the inescapable patterns of a person's behavior.
Okay.
So when we judge someone by what they always or never do, we're kind of bypassing the whole free will debate, and we're just looking at them as a predictable system.
So if a person always avoids conflict or never saves money, that isn't a series of choices. It's the predictable, hardwired output of their black box.
Exactly. And this distinction, it fundamentally challenges how we assess character. Are we judging a conscious decision made this morning, or are we identifying an inescapable pattern that was set decades ago?
It's a profound synthesis. We learned that comparison needs judgment to be fuel, that disagreement is internal and relentless, and that even our dearest relationships seem to be bound by this idea of equal rank.
And if we bring together that final thought about the black box of consciousness and the earlier idea that you'll never escape the basic way people think, it raises a crucial, lingering question for you, the listener.
If the core of who you are is a kind of predetermined system, how much of your own behavior is genuinely conscious choice, and how much is simply the predictable action of the black box?
Right.
If someone were evaluating your life by that metric of what you always or never do, what immutable patterns would they discover?
That's the knowledge you gain when you look past the surface.
Thank you for sharing these powerful sources with us and letting us take this very challenging deep dive into human nature.
It was a fascinating study of the architecture of motivation.
We'll catch you on the next steep dive. 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 On the next